how to simplify your productivity and therefore productivity system. Well, a lot of insights that we gained over the past 2 years together. Or is it already more than 2 years, Paco? I cannot even, I have no feeling
2.5
time and room anymore.
Well, close to three.
Close to
July
3 years we are together on this.
2022. Yeah.
Can you imagine? It's insane. And now since 2018, 7 years, right? On my own with the paperless movement. That's crazy. All these things taught us simplification is key, especially for the busy professional out there. And no matter how much deep knowledge we can share about fancy systems and automations and all these things, we had to simplify things for ourselves, looking at all the amazing Obsidian setups out there, Notion setups, all this complexity where you can go from one rabbit hole to the other, back to the things that really matter and move you forward in a business. So 20% effort to get 80% results, right? And that's what we need to get to. And today we will talk about an interesting topic as it feeds perfectly into our own insights. It's the insights from Arc. So the browser company, which is the company behind Arc, the browser that both of us are still using and loving. And well, they had some deep conclusions, right, Paco? So why don't you just share the information that we gained here?
It's called Josh Miller. Okay, it's the CEO and founder, I think, of Arc and the browser company. And he sent a letter to Arc members, okay, last May 27th, 2025. Okay, and there they do an analysis of all the things that they have done, especially, well, mentioning the big mistakes and big failures and why they are pivoting into a different solution called DIA. And well, I think that it's interesting. By the way, for me, it's quite sad, when we talk about Superhuman, we talk about all the problems that this amazing product had to survive, okay, how they, had to fire a lot of people and how they suffer until, it seems that it's going properly, although in a business you never know when it's going right, because at any moment it can go wrong, okay, and especially talking about software, okay, the moment that any other solution appears, technical thing or whatever, you are always not 100% sure that that it's going to work, and that's what happened to Arc. And I think that it's a business example, a use case that it's pretty useful for busy professionals, okay, we have a lot of members who are owners, entrepreneurs, freelancers, people who are, managing their own business. And also from a software perspective, okay? And that's what we want to create, this parallelism between business, software, and why not the solutions we offer and how we approach productivity, because I think that everything makes sense. And with an example, it's much better to understand the concepts behind. No, that's why we use the implementation layer, okay, under our concepts and workflows layers, because it's the only way that we know that people understand the things, and we too. It's with a current example how we can really understand why things were made wrong. Although we have to say that after things have happened, it's pretty easy to criticize, to think, we should have done this other way. But at the moment, it's really difficult. It's really difficult, and we know how difficult it is to make a business profitable, and also how difficult it is to make things work, especially when we are talking about complex things. No, here we are living this with ICOR and our methodology. How you have just said, we have been working together, being productive, okay, for 3 years. And we also have decades of experience in the past working independently. And it's now when we think that we are really being able to bring the simplest, version of ICO, of the methodology, so that it's much easier for people to learn, to understand, and to implement it. And that's why we are making significant changes inside our membership, also our website, how we communicate, the type of content that we are delivering. I think that we've gained a lot of clarity talking about delivering the messages that we wanted to deliver since all this story started, But this shows how complex it is. And with Arc, exactly the same. They were trying to revolutionize what a browser is. and also dealing with the AI thing that emerged more or less at the same time, and combining these huge changes in the world. Well, this is why it's not easy to make things work, especially when you have also big players behind. You have big companies, and you need to defend your position with your own resources, playing with big competitors. So, well, we can dive little by little through the letter.
I think
and sharing our insights.
ARC, as with so many other productivity tools, and then therefore you can extrapolate this to general businesses. They don't know when to stop, what to double down on. Since day one, I said Todoist is amazing because they focus just being a task manager. And they did this for decades, really. And that's why they have been successful. They are highly polished on all the devices and all these things. And we keep saying this. We always worry when we see tools then going into other areas of productivity just because there is a demand that they think there is by users. And in ARC, it happened that a lot of more nerdy people loved ARC. And they were demanding features that the normal user would never use. And so therefore they're all bloating this thing up. And ClickUp could be the best example, because the moment they started their tool, they were throwing everything in there and tried to make it work. And then now with all the features that they get in there, they start to make sense of it. Where do you position all this? Because there's so much going on. The more you introduce. So as we keep saying, it's easy to add things on top, but it's hard to remove them later on the moment people start using it, because it will break people's their workflows. That's why we need to keep it simple. And now working on our own application with the ICOR framework, again, we had this discussion a long time to focus on really what matters, because the potential of such thing is huge, right? But keeping it as simple as possible is the importance, but in our case, that you have the foundation right, that you know already what is working, and then keep building on top of it without trying to expand. And there are other examples like Heptabase, amazing how they started out and all this, and now they go into collaboration features, something where it was a PKM tool. Now, what is it now? A BKM tool, business knowledge management, or what? And then they want to introduce AI there as well. And you see the developers spread themselves thin, focusing on things that, other things fall behind, that are really focused on their core values and value proposition of the tool. And this is where I think always things fall apart. And we saw this in many places. And Superhuman, in my personal opinion, is no exception when they try to implement the teamwork for a long time already, but it's compared to the competition, half-baked, it's confusing and things like that. And I don't know if they need to roll it out because the investors need it. But, well, that is just my opinion. We see it in many places, the same thing. And the same applies to myself. So trying to solve it all for the paperless movement, that was our goal, building a productivity system end to end. But I think the level of simplification that we reached is really the understanding the difference of personal and business productivity and differentiate between it clearly. We already differentiate between personal work life and personal private life to make things simpler, but it is even more important to differentiate between teamwork and personal work and things like that, to really double down on the personal productivity first to get this right. And then if needed, to put the other layer of teamwork on top of it. Just to one example.
And the thing is that talking about the ARC example, what happened to this company is that they went too deep into many things until a point that they weren't pointing towards a mass market product. Instead, it was built for nerdy people, envisioning that they were building an operating system. And I think that most of the non-nerdy people don't have a clear definition of what an operating system is. So imagine the moment that you are trying to implement that with such a huge and insane, I was constantly updating. They were making releases of new features that I don't even know why they were delivering that. It was something that it created kind of anxiety, I would say, because it's impossible when you have an update and you are using a tool. You want to quickly update just to remove the bottom and keep on focus on the things that matter. No, but the thing is that it's quite frustrating when you update something and nothing happens. Okay, I think that that's something that all the tools should improve. That it's telling the people really why they are making that update, because if not, it becomes kind of frustrating because you're going to miss important improvement to to the tool in a certain moment, because you are used to just pressing the button and not receiving anything at all. So the moment that they really deliver something interesting, well, it's like now Apple. I'm looking forward towards the amazing graphical user interface and user experience that they are going to do after years of doing nothing.
We
at
will
all.
see. That's a good example.
We will see. But now skepticism has grown in us. The moment that you are not delivering anything year after year on, in this case, the Arc browser was daily, constantly just updating daily, and nothing happened, and also a lot
you
of
don't receive any updates at all. That worries at the same level.
And also it's that the core elements, the core features don't improve. That's why we always say that the moment that a software has been fully focused into something huge, like for instance, task management is huge itself. How the heck are you going to attack now the project management and then the time management and all those worlds? Those are pretty complex. It's like Superhuman, trying to deliver the calendar. I don't know for how long they've been delivering and trying to improve the calendar. Man, it's pretty difficult to be a competitor of a pure calendar app like Fantastical or Winkle or whatever the name is, and that's something that I know that it's quite difficult, and we are suffering with those type of things. For instance, in the case of the paperless movement, it's not easy to go all in into something and keep polishing, and that's what we have been struggling since the beginning. It was 1 year ago that we started really nailing down the things and the core concepts, workflows, products, services that we should deliver, to the right person based on, our criteria, also the feedback, also a lot of mistakes, We are not free of making mistakes. We are constantly, because it's pretty easy to conclude the things afterwards, but during the storm, it's pretty difficult to react, Because all the thing. I know perfectly the feeling of this guy, Josh Miller, the CEO of Arc, that he has everything in his mind. But the thing is that creating something out of that, being able to make a simplistic approach, being able to deliver and being able to sell it and then make profit out of it, those are huge steps, And now, right now, what I feel sad about is that they're going to launch this DIA thing that it's like, a browser using AI. But the thing is that competitors have moved faster. Now he has wasted a lot of energy, resources. I don't know what the fundraising capital is thinking about all this story. He's struggling with a lot of things because, we are looking forward towards Perplexity and the Comet thing, the browser, because at the end, what people have found out is that what we used the browser the most was to make a search and then navigate through that content, and that's what all these Perplexity and all the AI solutions, started doing, and now it's a combination of browsing through pages or content, but having a chat so that you can interact with the content. And that's something that, many companies have been betting on. And now let's see what they can do with DIA. I think that it's quite devastating. The end of the, I felt really sad because I think that it's a lesson of business strategy, of transparency, by the way, because it's pretty easy to share your wins, and forget about the struggles and the failures that you have committed to. And the thing is that this guy do this because he started that one of the things that they made wrong was not telling the truth to the people, and this is something that they want to improve. So, let's see if there's time to create this pivotal moment and pivotal thing and change the path and the way that they are taking. but not easy because it's quite an ambitious. I think that it's still, I can remember also an interview to Perplexity's founder, and he was telling how difficult it was to create an operational system, an operating system, based on a browser, and if these guys who I consider geniuses, with funds, with resources, with a lot of teams that are talented people, it's something that it's insane, and also at the speed that they need to deliver, because speed is crucial in this area, talking about technology. So I cannot imagine the pressure of all these companies, of all these people, and the frustration after not achieving what they have been pursuing.
Yeah, and as the topic of the episode is how to simplify your productivity, I mean, we came to the same conclusion over and over again. We have now over a year of monthly inner circle cohorts where we do the direct coaching. And how many times we said, don't look at these complex tools, don't overcomplicate your system. I think there's a layer approach. Yet again, layers are a favorite word in our case. But there's again layers of complexity. People always are on the top layer of complexity and try to make it all. But if you break it down to what start with and then build the next layer of complexity on top of it, you have a perfect foundation that holds the whole thing together instead of falling apart the moment you change one tool in your productivity system, for example. And that's why we help you guys to build this foundation first. And we keep saying, for a tool stack, for a busy professional in a personal area, it's as simple as using Heptabase for personal knowledge management, Todoist for task management, Sansama for planning, and then the typical applications you already use, either Outlook or Gmail for your email, and Google Calendar or Outlook. So, and that's it. Did I miss anything? Well, Reader, right? So we differentiate only between the outer world where we consume all the things and want to collect all the information. There we use Readwise Reader, and Heptabase for the thinking part. And if you want to get to the next level, then add maybe Tana to your PKM. But even then, for 90% of the people we've been working with, Heptabase is more than enough to do as much as possible. And there we get back to the 20% and get this right to have the biggest impact instead of starting to do work about work and try to make the system work. And with this ICOR framework, it was already an eye-opener for our members. And that's available for free members too, right? Where you can lay out your tools on this ICOR framework. And making this new dynamic ICOR framework is an exciting thing because it even makes things even easier to visualize that what a productivity system actually means and how simple it can actually be without looking left and right and trying to find the next feature comparison and things like that.
Yeah, I've been able to find the quote, and the sentences that Josh says, and he says, fully aware that we might be wrong, but doing it anyway, because we think the intent matters. Well, let's see if the market says that the intent matters. I think that at the end is revenue and profit. It's as hard as that. Everything, obviously, starts with an intention, but at the end, it's the market that has no mercy at all. No matter the sweet blood and tears that you paid, you put into this thing, and we know it. I know it, and I really wish this team the best that I can. Because they were really pioneers. I was impressed the first time that I launched Arc. It was an amazing sensation. It was like opening an Apple product. They reinvented now. It seems, after years using this graphical user interface and user experience, it sounds natural, and we take for granted many of the things. But I can remember, because also I jotted down in my journal, the impression, because I love to share with myself or with my future self the first impressions, because you only have one time, to create a first impression, and that was it. And when I opened that, it was simply amazing, and it was totally life-changing. Life-changing, in fact, well, when I go back to any of the old browsers, for me, it feels like too primitive. Okay, that's what I have to say. I don't care about using Safari, Edge, Chrome. I have tested them all, and for me, the experience that I have by using Arc, that it's like not having anything at all. Okay, it's like using a local app. I think that they have been the ones who get the closest to deliver that experience. Okay, of navigating and browsing through the internet, feeling that you are like using a local tool. I think that that's impressive, and that was for me the main asset they had.
Well, in fact, it replaced my whole tool stack. I know, Paco, you download the tools, but I'm just in Arc. I have everything there, all the tools. That's why, and I said this already. Well, in 2018, I said it already to a colleague from me. The browser-based tools will win the game because they will become accessible everywhere. And he said, nah, it will be always an advantage having them locally first, right? I think it should be built on browser first because you reach as many people as possible and then try to wrap it into, because we have now all these wrappers that make it easy to make the local versions too. And so therefore Arc to me is the business system. I go there, I have different profiles, so I can switch context very easily. I'm logged into the different profiles. All the things that Chrome offered natively, they're just using the system, but they wrap it into a different UI UX, and that is really key. But the moment they introduced AI and search the page with AI, useless. I never use it. I'm even distracted when I want to search the page and it, switches to AI and starts searching the page. That's not something I'm using. And as Vincent mentions in the chat here, that he was worried about Dia because as he has seen that they switched again from the vertical tabs, which was unique to Arc, to the horizontal apps. And I haven't seen Dia yet, so I don't know. Have you seen it yet in action, Paco?
No.
Okay, so I haven't seen it. Let's see. We will get surprised. And well, as you said, I'm also losing hope about Apple, and I'm no longer. I remember how hyped I was when there was a new keynote from Apple, and you went there, and one last thing, and you thought, "Oh my God, where do I get all this money from to buy all these things?" And now I watch this and I say, "Well, I can save my money. It's not worth even." Yeah. Not even watching because it's just like all the memes out there, right? It is the same thing, just with a different package and a more percentage thing, and that's really a shame. And then we saw the Visual Pro, right? So that was a fail, and then all the things that they said will be amazing, and then Apple Intelligence, something that Paco and I had so high hopes for. Okay, they take their time because they just want to get it right. It's still not there yet, at least not in Germany, right? It is a fucking joke compared to what else we have out there. And now we see the huge rebrand. The only positive thing on there, yes, they built a consistent ecosystem and then they reorganize everything so it makes more sense. But man, if the only thing we see there is just that they now changed the numbering of these operating systems to the yearly, that is now OS 26, and this is the only change. That's the worry I have, that I get disappointed. And that's something I know from the gaming industry, whenever they make a big launch and they try to sell in advance and all these things, all the disappointments, well, people will lose trust and interest. And just a few days ago, I said to my wife, maybe we have to move on to another ecosystem at some point because Apple is really falling apart. I have the feeling there.
Well, not in my case, because I consider that the Apple ecosystem keeps, at least for me and the different companies, essential. But the thing is the sense of evolution, when in the past, when you bet on Apple, you were on top of everything, okay? And that justified the pricing. They were the most expensive, but it makes sense because the ROI makes sense. But since Steve Jobs passed away, nothing has happened, okay? There's a moment that I cannot distinguish, the different types of iPhone, the moment that you got a cover on them, they are exactly the same, no changes in the hardware. The software has been kept quite similar and is quite disappointing. No, by the way, I would like to add something because Now Arc, for instance, is thinking about if they make it open source and all this story. And again, I want to do a reflection about free software that it doesn't make sense at all. Recently, another amazing piece of software like Pocket has disappeared, okay, because they bet on the free approach to the market, and that doesn't make sense because at the end it's something that it won't work for the company but also for the users. When you start comparing paid products,
this is to me a perfect example where it yet again, even that they think now about this, they are serving the wrong audience because nobody cares about open source, and add your own stuff to the things. If you're just a user of the tool and you want to just not to think about the backend and all these things. So open sourcing it is targeting towards the developers and all the things, and people can develop it, and I 100% agree. That is an issue. I also want to just add to our Apple discussion, something that was disappointing in the recent years was also Google, right? With all the AI, you expect that they come up with the amazing thing, but I have to say they're having a big comeback right now with all the implementations. And ChatGPT is really suffering. I mean, I switched from ChatGPT to Claude for many ways. That is just outperforming in a lot of cases. Maybe not for the normal user, but this is really huge changes. And that just shows that these companies, no matter how big they became, they are not secure. So when ChatGPT came out, they had a unique value proposition, but now things come out that are faster. So Perplexity had their niche because they were browsing the web with AI. And now Google is coming back with AI browsing, and it's integrated in many things. What an amazing time we are in. It's so fast paced. It's so hard to stay on top of everything. That is even more important to have a stable foundation. And that's why we are betting on building stability right now in order to keep growing on top of it later on.
Yeah, and that's why I can expand this concept of free software to cheap services. Okay, I've never believed in cheap products and cheap services because even
then we have to increase our pricing, Paco.
Because we are in the right spot. I think that we consider that we are cheap. Okay, we
compared
are
to the competition,
and creating awareness, and that it's quite difficult. Okay, it's when you are competing in the whole world. Okay, you need to create awareness by delivering quality, but also at the beginning, pricing cannot be an obstacle. Obviously, we are not the cheapest, okay? But we could be. We are aware that we could be much more expensive for the services that we deliver. This is not bragging. It's just a reality. It's part of our strategy. And I'm convinced that we will keep increasing the prices
to the
little
return
by
of
little.
investment. It's first perceived quality that Apple bets a lot on, right? But at the same time, return of investment. And if you join the paperless movement and you immediately save hours per week by just implementing the simplest thing that we have to offer, then it is really cheap compared to this when we look at the target audience, right, of the people joining and their hourly rates, then the return of investment is instantly there. And that's
what happened with amazing products and services. Talking about software, all the tool stacks, all the tools that we use in our tool stack, some of them are like Superhuman that people complain about that they are very expensive, but we keep them using on a daily basis because they save us a lot of time. And it's the sensation of working with something that has been pretty well crafted. That's the experience that we have with the type of products that we engage with, and that's something that you cannot replace. Okay, I cannot change no matter the price from one tool to another just because of the price, because the user experience, I remember when I tried to force myself and to convince for I think more than 1.5 years to use Obsidian, and it was quite painful, interacting with those screens, having all those friction points of customization, setting things up, and also at the end trying to reinvent something that it was always there, because we should never forget that The digital productivity system for a VC professional is just something to deliver, okay? It cannot be something that generates and produces friction or even more work, and that's something that happens with such complex tools, and that's why we bet on simplicity, because I think that our people need clarity, They don't care. They are not nerdy people who don't care about, obviously, they are interested in tool, in being more productive, but at the end, it's their thing, okay? Their business, their lives, what matters, okay? The productivity system is something to support to them, okay? And there should be people like you and I creating a methodology. There should be software engineers thinking about what's the best way of interacting with a user and what type of product, what devices is going to work properly, There's a ton of knowledge there, and that's what they need to buy, okay? Something that creates the solution, okay? And not delivering by themselves the solution, because that doesn't make any sense, okay?
I'm so fed
in
up
a business
with these
world,
discussions about not another subscription model or something like that. I published a video about, I think it was the AI voice transcriber, right? Where I explained how you can write much faster just using your voice. And that's for people who are writing slow. And one of the first comments below, how much does it cost? Not another subscription. I'm so fed up with subscription. Hopefully it's free. I don't get it. I mean, if you buy a car, you don't ask these questions or when you rent your flat or something like that, you don't ask these questions. You expect by paying the rent that everything is fixed inside the rent. If you buy a house, or you get one for free, well then you can rebuild it from scratch. But if you buy a house, well, you have to do the maintenance yourself. And these things apply 100% to these things. And I'm so fed up about these things because it clearly shows that the people who are complaining about this thing, and especially when they complain about their own tool stack, how much it costs, that they are not aware of the return of investment that these tools bring. So it's maybe it's useless. Maybe they're paying subscription for something that they don't need in the first place, and their system is totally overbloated. And a good example is now our Claude subscription, or my Claude subscription. Me personally using Claude, the AI, so the alternative to ChatGPT. I just upgraded to 180 euros per month. That's $200 per month. So how stupid are you to do this? This you only do if you have a specific use case in there. So I'm using it for programming and thinking about how much this would cost to using a programmer. It is, I don't know, 100x saving compared to doing it together with another person, hiring a person, things like that. And that's really what is missing. And that's what we are here for, to give you these definitions and that you realize you can remove maybe 50% of the tool stack that you have. And then you will save a lot of money and just keep the things that really move you forward.
And the point is that people who complain about subscriptions and that type of business model is that they don't really understand software, okay? Because I started working on software at the end of the 80s, okay? I'm starting the 90s. And those were subscriptions disguised, okay? Because at the end, you were buying licenses and you need to, if you want, because software as a service was the best solution possible to allow software companies to survive.
Yeah.
The only way that users can keep something that it's endless, okay? Because a software solution needs to evolve constantly, okay? It's impossible to have something that is static and then you use it until you die. It's something that you need to keep evolving. And the only way possible to make that profitable for the software companies, because if not, they cannot deliver, so that the users don't receive what they need. And that was us. I remember when that type of business model in software started, it was a revolution, okay? And it was the reality of the transparency, because I have lived personally how businesses were spending amazing amounts of money because of licenses and renewals and all this loop, okay? It's much better and much more transparent paying, and it allowed also the software companies to bet on volume, okay, because they could decrease the prices, but at the same time being able to improve the product.
And at the same time, it allowed, again, the wave of the solopreneurs and doing startups and so on. Just thinking about myself, if I would have needed to pay a whole year license for a tool and then realize I'm pivoting to a different tool, I would have been bankrupt within 5 months probably. Now I'm testing it for a month. If it is not working, I can cancel and move on to the next one, at least in a startup base. So that's all the things that people are not aware that wasn't even possible in the past. And also you 10x paid more for this software than you do right now. It's a joke. It's a miracle how these companies even survive. And as we know, not many do.
And also people think about software just as the product, but they don't think about the service behind. For instance, here in Spain, long time ago, there was a lot of piracy because of the prices, okay, of the software licenses. But right now with SaaS, you got a customer care service that it's amazing. For instance, talking about Superhuman, their customer service is amazing. Any of these tools, you can reach out and you receive a service that users need, okay? And that's only possible because of this recurring model, business model, talking about subscriptions, because if not, it's impossible. It's impossible to deliver an amazing product that delivers value and also offers an amazing customer care service at a competitive price and being profitable. You know, all those variables, combine those variables, the only way to do it is by subscription. And here we have seen how Pocket, for instance, has disappeared, and many other freemium and all these inventions because we have to take into account that we are not talking to students. We are talking to busy professionals that can spend, I don't know, on paper, for instance, and we are paperless. How much a company is spending in many other assets, electricity, machines, whatever.
Yeah.
Why software cannot be considered such an amazing asset for a company when it's used properly? That's the mindset that has changed through the years, okay? And I appreciate, because I've always said the same. I've always received ROI coming from software, okay? And that's why for me, software is always an investment. The thing is using it right. And that's why we created the Paperless, because the problem is that people
intentionally, right? Make informed decision about the usage. So to me, it was from day one, I have a problem and I looked for a tool for solving this specific problem, and not because other people are using it and recommending it and all these things. No, I was solving problems. Then I checked if I can solve other problems with it. If not, perfect. I have a highly specialized tool for this problem. Let's find another tool for this specialized problem. And this is also against this wave of the all-in-one solution. If you want to use an all-in-one app, then it might be our ICOR framework, right? Because this is the one app to rule them all. That's what you can say. And Vincent says it as well in the chat. Most people think they need tools, but they need a framework. And that's just exactly echoing what I just said there. I think, Paco, we could go on for hours, and we should do this next week because we can go really deep into this for sure. But I think there was a great discussion. Thanks for sharing these insights, and cannot wait to catch up next week. And everybody else, catch you up next week too. Have a good time. Yeah. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Thank you.